Hello there. My name is Blair Critch. I am here to give you your free product of mastering your time. This is something that has become very important to me, especially over the last, I would say, 9 years when I got way more serious about my business. I realized the potential that I had within my business. And yet at the same time, the whole reason I went into a business where I could work for myself was so that I would have time freedom, so that I would have the flexibility to be at the things that my kids had, to be able to spend that time the way that I wanted. And so, what I found very quickly when I started working for myself was sometimes you have too much time. And if you don't organize it well, you just end up getting lost in the mess and nothing ends up being done to the best that it could be done. So I always love to start with explaining it kind of like it's the game board of your life. Whether you choose to use a paper calendar or a digital calendar, you're going to want to make sure that you get a calendar, right? That's the very first thing. And the second is I want you to look at it as the game board for your life. What do I mean by that? I mean, when you look at your calendar, do you see all the things that are important to you? And that's what we're going to start with today, because what you want to do first is you want to print this that I gave you guys, and we're going to go through it together. So you want to make sure that you print this. And I'm actually going to share screen so you guys can see it while I'm talking as well, because I just think there's something about visually seeing it that really helps. So let's break it down. So very first thing I want you to do is figure out, what are you going to do for a calendar? Now, guess what? This is great news for you. If you love a digital calendar, you can still color code on a digital calendar. If you're like me and you still love the paper calendar, there's just something about it that I love, then you can stick with the paper calendar. It's really up to you. So the very first thing I want to suggest is that you choose a calendar. And within this, you will see two links of my two favorite non-digital calendar, like actual paper calendars that I love. Passion Planner is one of them. And the other one is the Law of Attraction Planner. I just personally love those. I love the time slots and how they set it up. The next thing I want you to do is get 4 different color highlighters. And then you're obviously going to need their pen or pencil. I personally like to write in my calendar in pencil because things change. I like to be flexible, and so I can erase it very easily by doing it that way. Okay. Now, remember when I was talking about this being the game board for your life? Then we're going to talk about that in a second. But I want to start with making sure that you know when you're going to plan your calendar every single week. So what is that for you? For us in our house, I started planning my calendar every Sunday so I have everything prepped and ready for the whole week. We have a family calendar, paper calendar in our kitchen so that everybody can walk by it, see it very easily. So I will go and fix things on that after I do my own personal calendar. Now, my husband and I, over the last 6 years, have been doing it together as well on Sundays. So we both go, okay, let's meet at this time on Sundays and do our calendar. We technically usually do it before church on Sundays. It just works best for us. So I go in my office, I do my calendar. It takes me 10, 15 minutes. Then we meet up together, make sure everything that we said on our calendars was correct. What do I need to add about for you, honey? For me, what did we miss about the kids, etc. And then I go and put it on that family calendar. So that's how we do it for us. I really believe in involving your family because, again, you want to make sure you know what's going on. You want to make sure you're available for the things that are most important to you. So now I want you to go over here to this. What are the most important focuses of your life? So for me, it is God, family, business, friends. Okay. So for me, I actually put personal along with my God time. That's just how I personally do it. This is an example here of how I used to do it. It used to be kids, husband, work, personal. Now I actually do it a little bit different. My kids and my husband are actually green. Myself, personal time is pink. My business time is yellow because it's easy for me to write in over yellow because I will usually block times for my business and then write in the things that I need to do. And then orange is for any of my other businesses because we have multiple streams of income. I have a retreat company. I have a home that we rent out, VRBO, Airbnb. And I also have some speaking engagements and things like that. So orange is my other businesses. Okay. So that's what I do. You've got to figure out what is it for you. Okay. Next thing that we do after that is we're really figuring out how we're going to use this. Okay. And how to time block with your highlighters. So one of the things that as I'm going through and I look at my week ahead, I start with the things that are non-negotiable. What do the kids have that I need to drive them to or be at? Okay. What is it that my husband has that I need to be at or available because he's going to be at, right? What do I have maybe for my parents? I help take care of them, or a meeting or an appointment. I put all those things on the calendar first. Okay. Because my business is flexible, I then fill in. Now, for you, it might not be flexible. You might work certain hours every day. So you want to make sure you put that on there as well. And maybe you're building a side business. And so you need to get very clear on what are the times that you can work that. But you got to put all those other things in first. Okay. So you know what is open now. Okay. Next thing I like to suggest is picking just 2 social media platforms for your business. Now, why do I say that? If you are trying to do all of these things, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, Snapchat, all the things, Pinterest, right? You're going to be overwhelmed. So start with 2 things and master them. Okay. Once you've mastered them, you feel really awesome on them and you want to branch out into Pinterest or you want to branch out and throw stuff on these other ones. That's great. I mean, I have all of these things, but I will tell you, when I was trying to master my Instagram reels and I would throw them up on TikTok, on YouTube shorts, on Facebook stories, all these different things, what happened was I wasn't following up with the people that were actually like commenting and engaging on them because I was really focused on Facebook and Instagram. So I lost the connections with those people. And that's actually not a great thing because you want to be a person of word, right? Like I want people to know that when they comment or engage on something, right, I'm going to comment back. I am on my word. If I say drop this below and they did, and then I didn't even respond, that's not really how I like to roll. So pick the 2 social media platforms that you're going to use for your business. All right. Now I want you to pick 3 times a day that you're going to check in and post on those social media platforms. What time in the morning? Maybe you have a mid-afternoon, maybe you work full time. So let me give you an example. If you work full time, let's say you're a teacher, but you're trying to build a side business right now, then you want to make sure you find a time in the morning before you go to work, maybe during your lunch break, if you're available to do that. And then in the evening, maybe after your kids' activities or right after work. If you can't do something during lunch break, maybe it's before work. Right after work, you sit in your car for 30 minutes and do this. And then before you go home, and then again in the evening after your children go to bed, if you have kids. All right. Then I want you to pick 2 times a day that you're going to check, send, and respond to emails. This is a time sucker that I see people do all the time, especially with social media. So let's go back one second. I see people spend a lot of time scrolling on their social media and checking it out when they're in their car, when they're at a red light, when they're waiting to pick up their kids. But the reality is you need to be intentional with that time. So set those 3 times so you don't get sucked in anymore, and set the 2 times a day that you're going to check your emails. So for me, when I used to drive my kids to school, they're older now, but when I used to drive them to school, I used to check my emails before first thing in the morning. So I wake up early before my family. I do my morning routine in the morning. That's for me, that's my gratitude. It's my devotion. It's my prayer request. It's my visualization of my vision and my belief statements. Okay. So I do all of that before my family even wakes up. And I also, as well, check my emails and my Facebook messages because those are usually from my team or maybe from the school. And I need to make sure I check them really quick. Then I would take my kids to school. But in the afternoon, when I would go to pick them up from school, I would always go 30 minutes early. And that was my time to check, respond, and send emails in the parking lot. Okay. That way I was first in line also, which I love. So I grab those kids quick and get home. All right. Next thing you want to do is what time will you wake up and what time will you go to bed? You know what? I know it sounds crazy. Like I'm actually making you write it down. But if you write it down, you're more committed to doing it. Okay. So write it down, set the alarms. I always said, obviously, my wake up alarm is set, but what about your bedtime alarm? Set an alarm on your phone that you're going to commit to going to bed at that time. And what time will you review your day and plan for tomorrow? What does that mean? So for me, it's always right after my kids go to bed, before I go and plop down on the couch or go for a walk with my husband or hop in our hot tub for the evening. If it's not a work night for me, I always go into my office, check my calendar, take notes, make sure everything got done today that was supposed to get done, anything that needs to move over to the next day, any notes that I need to remind myself for the following day, etc. Okay. Now, let's go back. Now that you guys have seen that, let's stop sharing so that I can talk you guys through this a little bit. So, the reason that it's so important for us to know when we're going to do these different things is because it helps you have more time. All right. And one of my favorite things to do is that bookending at the end of the day, right? And figure out like, what else do I need to do? But now that we've kind of gone over all of that, you're like, okay, now I have my blocks of time, Blair. What do I do? Right? I figured out all my kids' activities. I figured out where I'm going to fit in my personal stuff. So maybe that's your workouts. Like I like to go to yoga 3 times a week. And then I like to walk with people 2 times a week because it gets my social time in, right? All the different things that I know I want to put on my calendar. I actually also put on my calendar 3 different times a day that I'm going to stop and just do some breath work and breathe, or get out my sound bowls and do some sound healing that helps to regulate my nervous system. I even put in blocks about when I'm going to eat lunch because I work from home. That way I don't get up and go into the kitchen, just dolly around, right? I have those things scheduled. And for some of you listening, you're like, oh, that's way too scheduled for me. And that's okay, but have your time blocks. And here's another benefit of that. When I first started working from home, I thought it was like so awesome that I could literally, be calling somebody or messaging somebody and like folding laundry at the same time. But here's the thing, multitasking is actually equal in your brain. You guys can go check this out by Dr. Amen if you want to. But multitasking to your brain, the way it looks in your brain, if you did a brain scan while you were multitasking, is the same as being on alcohol or marijuana. So imagine that our brains are not actually meant to do that. Okay. So instead, you can do some really cool things called habit stacking. If you've ever read Atomic Habits, it's an amazing book. Do some habit stacking instead. I have times on my calendar, usually during my lunch break, I give myself an hour or 45 minutes when I'm working at home, and that's my lunch break. So I leave my desk, I go get my lunch, I enjoy my lunch. And then maybe I do have some laundry that needs to go from the washer to the dryer, and the dryer needs to be folded, clothes, right? But during that time, I might listen to a podcast and do my self-development. That's a habit stack. I might watch my Real Housewives. It's kind of like when I'm cooking, prepping for the week on Sunday for my meals, or when I'm doing little, dainty or daunting little things around the house that I don't love to do. I habit stack with that. Peloton, I watch the Real Housewives because that's a little guilty pleasure of mine that I don't want to watch in the evening. Obviously, my husband has no interest. So if I'm going to watch TV in the evening with him, that's not what we're going to watch. So for me, I'm not going to sit down and watch a 45-minute show when I could be working my business, but I will while I'm folding laundry, while I'm cleaning up around the house, while I'm cooking, while I'm getting food ready. And that's another thing, make sure you have in your calendar. If you cook your meals for your family, whether it's throwing stuff in the crock pot in the morning or making an actual meal in the evening, time how long it usually takes you and put that down on your calendar. Okay. And planning also what you're going to eat for the week is a huge help, and planning out your social media for the week as well. This is something I actually do private coaching on. So if you are interested, we can connect with each other and I can help you with this. This is something we do for my team every single Sunday night, content planning out their week ahead with their social media. But I do it even more direct one-on-one with people. So I also want you to be thinking, now that we've gone through all those different things, that we look at our calendar. Now, if I've already done ahead of time, right? Like I said, I know where my time for myself is. I know where my time for my boys are. I know where I'm doing stuff with my husband. Anything else that's a non-negotiable for the week is already there. Then I can see some blocks of time. And I usually always have at least 1 to 3 hours every day that I can block off for my personal business. I do that in yellow highlighter because it's easier for me to write in what are the income producing activities for my business. This is also a private training that I do either for teams in any kind of space or one-on-one, because this is really important that you know what is the most income producing activities for you in your business and what is your funnel. And so for me, I'll put those things on my calendar. Every day I spend 10 minutes doing birthday messages on Facebook. I like to connect with people. I spend 20 minutes every day getting into 2 different Facebook groups and connecting with people inside that Facebook group, 10 minutes in each one. I have a whole training on how to connect with Facebook groups. I also, I have certain days of the month that I reach out to my customers. I have certain days of the month I reach out to my promoters, my team builders. I have certain days of the month that I'm checking certain reports, right? Otherwise, I am working on reaching out to potential customers, potential business builders with me, and constantly recreating new ways of meeting people, whether through social media or going to a networking event or going to an event and being intentional about the people that I'm going to meet. So if you have any questions on this, this is just a quick wrap up of how to use that Mastering Your Calendar sheet. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can always find me on Instagram at Blair Critch 2, the numeral 2. You can find me on Facebook. I am Sparkly Blair, Blair Critch, or you can find me by just going to my email, blaircritch@gmail.com, or finding me on my website, blaircritch.com. Have a great day. Make it a great day for others. And hey, share your calendar with me. I'd love to see it.